The story of Bermeja Island is one of the strangest and most fascinating mysteries in the history of maps. It is often called a phantom island, which means a place that appeared on maps for a long time but was later found not to exist. This incident is real and well documented. What makes it confusing and interesting is that Bermeja Island was shown on official maps for hundreds of years, yet today there is no sign of it at all. Scientists, historians, and governments have all studied this mystery, and even now, it continues to spark curiosity and debate. Bermeja Island was believed to be located in the Gulf of Mexico, north of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. For centuries, sailors, mapmakers, and governments accepted that this island existed. It appeared in atlases, nautical charts, and official documents. Because maps were trusted sources of knowledge, no one seriously questioned the island's existence for a very long time. Only in modern times, when technology improved and careful searches were made, did people realize something was very wrong. To understand this incident clearly, we need to look at old maps, early exploration, how maps were made, and how mistakes could survive for hundreds of years. We also need to understand why Bermeja Island suddenly became important in modern times, especially for political and economic reasons. When we put all these pieces together, we begin to see how a land that never truly existed could live on paper for centuries and then disappear completely. In the early days of exploration, especially during the 1500s and 1600s, European sailors traveled across oceans with very limited tools. They used simple instruments, stars, rough calculations, and visual observations. When a sailor believed he saw land, he reported it. Mapmakers back in Europe would then add that land to maps. These maps were copied again and again. If an error appeared once, it often stayed for generations. This is exactly how many phantom islands were born, including Bermeja Island. Bermeja Island first appeared on Spanish maps in the 16th century. Spain controlled much of the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico at that time, so Spanish maps were considered reliable. The island was drawn as a small piece of land in the open sea. It did not seem important at first, but its repeated appearance gave it credibility. Later mapmakers from other countries copied Spanish maps, spreading the idea of Bermeja Island across Europe and the Americas. One important reason the island stayed on maps is that few people ever visited the exact location. The Gulf of Mexico is large and ships often avoided unnecessary travel. As long as no one strongly proved the island was not there, mapmakers saw no reason to remove it. In those days, removing land from a map required strong evidence, which was hard to get. It was easier to keep copying older maps than to question them. Over time, Bermeja Island became accepted as fact. It appeared in atlases, navigation guides, and government records. Sailors learned about it, and geographers taught it. Even as navigation improved in the 18th and 19th centuries, no one paid much attention to this small, unimportant island. It did not have cities, ports, or trade routes. As a result, the mistake remained hidden in plain sight. The mystery only became serious in the late 20th century. By this time, technology had changed completely. Ships had radar, satellites could see the Earth from space, and sonar could measure the ocean floor. Governments began mapping seas very carefully, especially to define borders and control natural resources. This is when Bermeja Island suddenly became very important. The Gulf of Mexico is rich in oil and natural gas. Countries that border the Gulf, especially Mexico and the United States, wanted clear sea boundaries. International law says that islands can affect how far a country's maritime border extends. If Bermeja Island existed, it could increase Mexico's control over large areas of ocean and valuable oil fields. This made the island more than just a map curiosity. It became politically and economically important. Because of this, Mexico organized official expeditions to find Bermeja Island. Scientists, sailors, and researchers were sent to the exact coordinates shown on old maps. They searched carefully using modern tools. They scanned the sea surface, measured the water depth, and studied the ocean floor. What they found shocked everyone. There was no island. There were no rocks, no shallow areas, and no signs that land had ever been there. The sea in that location was deep and flat, showing no evidence of a sunken island. If an island had existed and later sank, scientists would expect to see underwater mountains, plateaus, or remains of land. But nothing like that was found. This strongly suggested that Bermeja Island had never existed in the first place. This discovery raised many questions. How could an island that never existed appear on maps for over 400 years? How could so many map makers repeat the same mistake? The answer lies in how knowledge was shared in the past. Early mapmaking was not based on direct observation by the mapmaker. Instead, maps were often copies of older maps. Errors were inherited like family traditions. Another possible explanation is natural illusion. Sailors at sea often see mirages, clouds, or reflections that look like land. In certain weather conditions, the horizon can create powerful visual tricks. A sailor may honestly believe he sees an island and report it. Once written down, that report becomes evidence, even if it was based on a mistake. Some people have suggested that Bermeja Island may have been a very low island that disappeared due to erosion, storms, or rising sea levels. While this can happen in some cases, scientists say it is very unlikely here. Even if the island had eroded, there would still be geological evidence underwater. Since none exists, this explanation is weak. As the mystery became public, conspiracy theories began to spread. Some people claim that Bermeja Island was destroyed or hidden on purpose. They argued that removing the island would change sea borders and benefit powerful countries. These theories gained attention because they involved politics, oil, and secrecy. However, no real evidence supports these claims. No documents, photos, or geological data show that the island was deliberately removed. Experts strongly agree that the simplest explanation is the correct one. Bermeja Island was a cartographic error. It was a mistake that entered maps long ago and stayed there because no one had a strong reason to question it. When modern technology finally checked the facts, the error was exposed. This incident teaches us an important lesson about human knowledge. Even information that looks official and trustworthy can be wrong. Maps feel permanent and authoritative, but they are made by people, and people make mistakes. Before satellites and modern science, much of the world was mapped based on guesses, stories, and limited observation. Bermeja Island is not the only phantom island in history. Many similar cases exist. Islands like High Brazil, Sandy Island, and others appeared on maps and later vanished. Each case reminds us that exploration is a process of learning, correcting, and improving. Knowledge grows stronger when we question and test it. In modern times, Bermeja Island no longer appears on official maps. It is taught as a historical error, not a real place. Still, its story continues to fascinate people because it feels mysterious. The idea that land could erase itself from maps captures the imagination, even though the truth is more human than magical. The story also shows how science works. Scientists did not simply accept old maps as truth. They tested the claim by going to the location and collecting data. When the data showed no island, they changed their understanding. This willingness to correct mistakes is what makes science reliable. For historians, Bermeja Island is a reminder to be careful with sources. A source repeated many times is not always correct. Sometimes many people repeat the same mistake. Only by checking original evidence can we know the truth. For ordinary people, this story is a reminder to think critically. Just because something has been written or believed for a long time does not mean it is true. Truth requires evidence, not tradition. In the end, the Phantom Island of Bermeja is not a story about a land that vanished. It is a story about human error, trust, and discovery. The island did not erase itself from maps. Instead, humanity slowly erased a mistake from its understanding of the world. So yes, this incident is real. Bermeja Island truly existed on maps for centuries. But the land itself almost certainly never existed in the physical world. What disappeared was not an island, but an illusion created by early exploration and preserved by history. Today, Bermeja Island stands as a symbol. It represents the limits of early knowledge and the power of modern science. It reminds us that the world we see on paper is only as accurate as the evidence behind it. And it proves that even in a well-mapped world, mysteries can still teach us valuable lessons.